Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Sin City Sports Show episode. Episode 81 to be exact, of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As you guys know, this is IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, where the big boys play. Let me know if you guys know where that legendary broadcast came from. It came from a Monday night show that went on for about 10 years. It was probably one of the most popular shows for at least 8 of them. Let me know if you know what that broadcast is from. And again, the phrase goes, where the big boys play. You guys let me know. Let me know if you guys know what I'm talking about. If you were about it and you had a cool childhood like I did, you understand what I'm talking about. This is Cale Henderson, the host of the Sin City Sports Show. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. And we do have a lot to talk about today. We're going to touch base on the Golden Knights because their season is still underway. They're second in the Pacific Division, not by a large margin, but they are second in the Pacific Division. They're getting healthy at the right time. And the one thing I can tell you guys about the Vegas Golden Knights, it seems like the second half of the season is where you see the most damage done by that team. So I'm expecting a surge, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We got to go straight into the Raiders. After beating the Broncos, man, in the season finale, a lot to talk about, right? First off, Broncos have lost 8 straight times. We'll touch on that. Is Antonio Pierce or Harbaugh the next coach? Or what about Mike Vrabel now that he's available? Because I think anybody and everybody knows Vrabel's an excellent coach. I think anybody and everybody knows that Mike Vrabel was not the issue in Tennessee. It's intriguing. Very intriguing. Patrick Graham, defensive coordinator of the Raiders, the first defense to place in the top 15 by the end of the season, but the first defense to place top 15 since 2002. So Patrick Graham, he's getting interviews to be a head coach or a defensive coordinator at other spots. The Raiders have been open and honest. They've said, hey, if you guys want to interview elsewhere, we will allow you to do that. I think what they're trying to do is, and this is what I hope's happening, I think Mark Davis has an idea of who he wants to keep and who he doesn't. What I truly believe is they're going to let them go out and listen to some offers, and then the Raiders will look at that and see if they can match or counter, right? Someone like Patrick Graham, he's going to be one of the highest paid defensive coordinators after this year, especially because he did a lot with the least, right? When you look at the cap space, when you look at the cap numbers, the Raiders are like the 6th least spending on their defense, right? That means there's a lot of rookies, there's a lot of, second-year players, a lot of free agents that were bargain bin free agents were on this defense, and they were still able to field a top 15 defense, which carried them into that run with Antonio Pierce. And a lot of it had to do, with Antonio Pierce and the attitude that he brought to the team. But, we'll touch base on that. There's also a new GM role that's open. Will Champ Kelly keep it? Will it be Ed Dodds, someone I thought would be the perfect candidate a couple years ago from the Colts, because I don't think really too many people have drafted better than the Colts the last few years. What about San Francisco? What about Philadelphia? Are the Raiders looking to interview and poach from teams that are they've amassed unbelievable rosters? We'll see. And we'll touch base on that here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide for your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is Muir, Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Callum Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
And welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys know how we do, man. We talk about all things Vegas sports. If you guys want to touch base with us, if you want to talk to us, you want to kind of shoot the stuff with us on sports, please tune into our Twitter forums. Follow, like anything that we put out there, because there's usually quite a bit of content or a couple tweets per day. We have the Sin City at SinCity_IESR at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. And as I said before, folks, we have a saying of the day. And I only say this because it's got me hyped. This is the Sin City Sports Show, where the big boys play. Let me know if you guys know what 90s Monday night show, which basically led the ratings in Monday night for, 8 of 10 years, used to open up with that saying, where the big boys play. Let me know, man. It's nostalgic. Again, if you grew up in my era, if you grew up, with a cool childhood, you kind of understand that. When you hear that, you're like, I don't know. There's a certain song that pops into your head when you hear that. I'm just saying. It's pretty dope. Golden Knights are underway, guys. Golden Knights, their season's still underway. 23-12-5, second in the Pacific Division. They're only second by a couple points, actually. So they're a game out of first place. This is okay. I was actually kind of hoping that the Golden Knights, because they're going to get banged up. Listen, when you have a long when you have a long postseason, and then your off season is much shorter than everybody else, it's wear and tear, man. I think we're seeing that. Like, perfect example is the Kansas City Chiefs. How often have they been in the postseason? How many more snaps and games has that team played than other teams? I think it's caught up to them. Yes, they don't have a Tyreek Hill. Yes, they don't have a guy to take the top off the defense anymore. But the reality is the same, right? The reality is what it is. They've played a lot of games. They've played a lot more snaps than a lot of the teams in this league, and it's showing, man. They're a team that's kind of falling apart a little bit, and they're going to have to reconstruct that roster. I look at the Golden Knights in the same vein because they're a really good hockey team. They're built very well. The problem is when one or two of those guys are hurt, and they're bound to get banged up in hockey, because hockey's like one of the toughest sports out there. It's going to be harder to come back from. So, I'll put it like this. I was hoping at the beginning of the season that we would see the Golden Knights, especially getting closer to the All-Star weekend, that we would see the Golden Knights in second or third, not too far out of first place, because this is kind of where they were last year, where they got a little banged up. They got healthy. Made some moves at the trade deadline, by the way. And then they went on a run because this is a second half of the season type team. Like they're just the Golden Knights in the this is their 7th year. In the 7 years that they've been in existence, but the 6 previous years, whether they had that one down year where they were 4th in the division, they had half of their team was injured. The one thing I can tell you about the Golden Knights is they consistently kill it. Kill it. They consistently kill it in the second half of the season after the All-Star break. It's like majority of their team gets rest. They're fine. The coaches do a great job of scouting ahead of time of who they're going to be playing, how those teams play. They just execute better than everybody else. So what I'm going to call it now, I think the Golden Knights finished first in the Pacific. I wouldn't be surprised if they finished first in the West. And I think they go on the run. Just like they're, I'm based my predictions off tendencies, right? From what I've seen over years. I believe the Golden Knights will catch fire in the second half of the season. I believe the Golden Knights will finish first in the Pacific Division by the end of the season because they will get hot. They will win like they do every year, 10 out of 13 games at one stretch and really jump out to a lead, and everybody's basically chasing them after that point because they will be well rested. They will give their coaches time to look into other teams and scout and plan how they're going to play them, what their lineups are going to be, because you always have 4 lines. Their goalies are doing an excellent job. Honestly, statistically, man, you see a really good team. Jack Eichel's at 42 points already on the year. That's incredible. That's a really good start to the year. 18 goals for that matter. Mark Stone's got 27 assists, so he's staying like unbelievably steady. This is a really good hockey team, guys. This shouldn't be a shock, right? Aiden Hill, Thompson. Hill's been dealing with some injuries. He'll be back. Once he gets back, you're going to see a run. But regardless, Aiden Hill is, goals against 1.93, right? Cool. Save percentage, 93%. Again, injuries. That's what's killing him right now. Thompson, he's 12-8 as a starter. He's had to play a few more games because of the injury to Aiden Hill, or nagging injury, I should say. And I would say this. Thompson is a really good backup. Like, if you had a rotational backup, you cannot be upset about that. Thompson's going to do what you need them to do. He's keeping them in the loop. Aiden Hill is going to come back after the All-Star break. He's likely going to be very healthy. And, that 93% save percentage is going to really stand out in that second half of the season, because if you're a team game planning against the Golden Knights, you know that they don't give up very many goals to begin with. And if the amount of goals that you put on, 93% of the goals that you put on net are going to be saved by one guy, as opposed to 90.3. 3% is a big deal in pro sports. 3% is a huge difference in pro sports. And I think teams have just been taking advantage of Thompson. Thompson's not doing a bad job. Don't get me wrong. Again, he's a backup. He's not getting paid the starter money like Aiden Hill is. Aiden Hill just happens to be hurt right now. He's not. I mean, it is what it is, man. He's on IR, right? Hopefully he's back in the All-Star break. Hopefully we see him again. It's possible. He took part in practice 4 days ago, which means we're looking at a potential return. But Ralph, what's up, dude? Is the show you asked about WCW wrestling? Absolutely it was. Welcome to WCW, where the big boys play. You know what I'm talking about, man. You had a blessed childhood if you understand what that was. That's so awesome, dude. Taryn, thanks for tuning in. Jen, thank you so much for tuning in. Larry B, Raiders. You know how it is, brother. That's what we do. Taryn, you never have to apologize. You're the greatest teammate ever. Great guess, Ralph. Great guess, man. I've been thinking about bringing some phrases back on and off. I actually had a coworker of mine today, someone I've been coaching up. He goes, you always have the nice little coaching sayings, man, things that make me reminisce about the old days of being a kid and just going out and playing ball and stuff like that. And it made me think, what if I brought a line to each show moving forward? Something like that, where we just, ask the listeners, do you know what I'm talking about? That's so cool that you got that, bro. Oh, dude, WCW it went so hard, bro. The Monday Night Wars was unbelievable. Like, the Monday Night Wars was just different, especially as a kid growing up. And it's crazy when you look back on all those, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get into, SoCal Saints territory. You know what I mean? To talk about wrestling, it was just reminiscent, man, and it was a lot of fun. So I just thought it'd be cool to bring that up. Wonder if anybody would get that. How dare those Canucks overtake the VJ? Yeah, you know what? It's okay. It's all good, man. I was kind of listen, Adam. When you're starting goalies out for an extended period of time, when you're giving up, 90%, right? So when you're saving only 90% as opposed to 93.3, which Aiden Hill was at before getting hurt, it's going to happen. You're going to take it. But they're still hanging in there. And I think one thing that we've seen in the 6 previous years of the Golden Knights being a team is the second half of the season is usually their show. Like, that's where they pop off. That's where they do an excellent job. So we'll see what happens. I like that they're in second, getting close to the All-Star break. And I think we're really close to seeing, a run being done. Don't be surprised if it happens, man. Don't be surprised. But yeah, Ralph, back to WCW, man. I remember playing those video games on PlayStation when it first came out with my godfather. The Monday Night Wars when, Hogan went to WCW, made WCW really relevant. It obviously, imploded. The NWO, yes, the MWO was the greatest. New World Order was unbelievable. It just got out of hand. And it was the wrestlers that ended up doing in WCW because they had too much creative ability in their contracts. And the other thing that was super smart, and it really changed the game for wrestlers, right? Because at the time, these wrestlers were basically poverty employees, man. These guys were traveling 360 days a year or 350 days a year, and they essentially got 2 weeks off, but most of the time it's to train, it's to get healthy, stuff like that. You're barely with your family, and these guys were barely making 6 figures at that time. Barely, with all of that work. Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, they changed the game with their contract because they started the clause contract basically stating that if anybody comes in and they're signed to a bigger deal than the original one of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash's contract would adjust to match the highest contract at WCW. So sooner or later, Ted Turner just lost money. But for the first 8 years they were on TV, WCW was unbelievable TV, man. It was exciting. The emergence of Goldberg, Sting, Crow Sting, I should say. Not the old school Sting that was like really flamboyant and it was weird looking, but the Crow Sting was dope. Yeah, dude, there was just so much to like. And then on the other side, you had WWF, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H. They were all feuding. D-Generation X was kicking off. Shawn Michaels was still in his prime, but he wasn't the main focal point anymore of wrestling. It was mainly Stone Cold, who basically changed the game and carried the WWF. Man, those were good times, dude. Great times. Great times. Yeah, that's so awesome that you guessed that, bro. Ralph, you're the man. You're the man tonight, dude. What a guess, man. Yeah, and Adam, back to what you were saying. Listen, the Golden Knights are in a prime position. Aiden Hill is supposed to be back and ready to go within the next week or two. That's what we're looking at. That's what the Golden Knights need. You know that Jack Eichel's killing it. You know Mark Stone's killing it. Marchessault he'll probably catch fire here soon as he's one of those guys that just plays really well in the power play. You just haven't seen many power plays the last few games for the Golden Knights. I just think that this team is going to turn around the second half and we're going to see an emergence. I mean, the statistics are what they are, man. When we look at, let's go ahead and look at the goaltending statistics real quick here. I know Jack Eichel leads right now. Leads with 18 goals. Let's check out the goals category. Jack Eichel with 18 goals already, man. It's a good start to the year, dude. Jack Eichel with 18 goals. Marchessault's at 17, so he's just killing it. William Karlsson's at 15. Mark Stone at 12. So your big guys, man. The guys that you really need to carry the team. That top 4 or 5 are absolutely killing it. Like, they're doing what they have to do. They all have point totals in the double digits. I do like that Stone, Karlsson, Marchessault, Eichel are all above 30 points already this season. That's really encouraging. He said, I gave myself homework for the neutral zone next week, deciphering the Pacific Division. Yeah, dude, it's a really good division right now. Like you're seeing improvement from a lot of teams. Like the Ducks, for example, are in the middle of the pack, and they've been atrocious the last few years. But it's because those young guys are really stepping up. I think the Ducks could be a team that's in play, not this year, maybe next year. You could really see them being a competitive team. But yeah, the Pacific Division is tough. That's why I truly believe, and I'm going to say this right here, right now, I think the Golden Knights have to win it again this year. Otherwise, they're in trouble because the Canucks are a young team, and they're catching flight. Seattle's not going to be far behind. I think that the Kings are a young team as well, right, because they had to go through rebuild mode as well. I think they'll be a good team. And now the Ducks are catching fire. The Ducks are either destroying teams or losing by 6. I know it's crazy, but it's because they're young, man. Like, they have a lot of guys from the system coming up and playing this year. Guys that were developing the last couple of years. I give them credit, man. I think they're playing well. They're playing well. They got guts. But yeah, the Golden Knights are in good shape, dude. And I totally see a second half run. I do. Don't be surprised if there is a 13-game stretch where they win 12 games. Because they do it every single year when they're fighting for contention and fighting for first place in the Pacific. They do it every single year. So, and this team isn't much different. And with Aiden Hill coming back, it's just going to put the Golden Knights in a better spot. We're going to go to a quick break here. When we get back, we're going to talk on the Raiders. Because it is Victory Tuesday. Raiders beat the Denver Broncos. That's 8 straight. When we get back here on the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I A in the FBS? Well, then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We're about halfway through the 81st episode of the Sin City Sports Show. You guys know where you can get at us, at Sin City _IESR, at Kale _Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. Ralph, you're the man, by the way. Thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, if you guys want to catch Ralph, he runs the Yinzer Report, and he is an IE Sports Radio Hall of Famer on Tuesdays. Catch his show. If you guys want to catch any of our shows, by the way, any of our shows, you guys can go to the Spreaker app, Spotify, Google Pods, Apple Pods. I mean, we're everywhere, man. Give us a shot. Listen to our shows. I think our teammates do an excellent job, and that just kind of segues into the flagship of our show. That's IE Sports Radio. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows, and also check out the website, iesportsradio.com. For sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast on the network, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the store and check out the latest merch. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. That is probably the best I've read through that damn sponsorship read, man. Sometimes I choke through those, man. That's awesome. I know I shouldn't be proud of myself and pat myself on the back over the radio, but it's my show, kiss my ass. Ralph, man, of course, man, you deserve a shout out. Adam Karnick, excellent teammate as well. He runs the Neutral Zone. Him and Zach run the Neutral Zone over there. Though that is on Tuesday evenings right before this show, right? He also runs Chi-Town Weekly. Chi-Town Weekly. Adam Karnick is excellent. He's a Chicago Bears diehard. He's a Chicago sports fan diehard. You guys can check that out. I believe that's Mondays. Taryn Rodriguez is the man, the myth, the legend, always tuning into our shows. Taryn has way too many hats, wears way too many hats here at IE Sports Radio, but he's the man because of it. Taryn Rodriguez runs Set Point. That is every Monday evening. Catch Set Point on IE Sports Radio or the Spreaker podcast app. You can check it out on the Apple Pods, Google Pods, Spotify. You can check out any of these teammates and their shows. He also is the host of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, which happens on Fridays. By the way, Taryn, best of luck to you in your coaching search. I'm a little bitter right now. I would love Jim Harbaugh to be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I just don't think it's going to happen, man. If I were Jim Harbaugh and I say this, you guys have had the down luck against the Raiders the last couple of years, right? I think the Raiders are like 3-2 against no 3. It's 4-2 against the Chargers for the last like 3 years. I don't know if that'll continue, man. Not if you get Jim Harbaugh. And if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I want to go to the Chargers. I know that there's a mess, but you can get rid of some guys. You can trim the fat. You have draft picks, and most importantly, you have the franchise quarterback, one of the most talented in the league, by the way. Like if you were to start a franchise right now, it'd be very hard not to say Justin Herbert. I know Patrick Mahomes is low-hanging fruit. I get it. But there's just something about Justin, man. He's a stud. He's an absolute stud. And he's been through like 3 – he's going to be in on his third coach in 5 years. It's kind of like the Derek Carr aspect, right? Derek Carr was nowhere near as talented, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying. He's had a hard time getting a grip on what he needs to do and improvement because he hasn't had the same coaches for a very long time. Justin Herbert, if he got Jim Harbaugh, that would be an unbelievable matchup. Again, I would love Jim Harbaugh to be a Raiders coach. It sounds like there's smoke that he's a Raiders coach, but I thought the Chargers and Raiders split their last 6 meetings. You might be right, actually. It might be 3-3. Oh, you're right. Yeah, they split this year, last year before. Most importantly, the Raiders beat the Chargers to get into the playoffs. But I digress. Yeah, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I stay away from the Commanders. Is actually a really intriguing job, by the way. I'm sure Mike Pat would love to hear this, right? Mike Pat, let's wine. Let's wine with Mike Pat. He's the DC sports guy. I honestly think that Mike Pat would like the idea of Jim Harbaugh to the Washington. Are they going to go back to the Redskins? That's another thing I'd like to know. I don't think it'll happen because of woke culture. But are they going to go back to the Redskins name? It's an interesting to think about. The Washington football team, the Commanders, whatever you want to call them, if they got Jim Harbaugh, dude, they got a decent defense. They really do. They got a decent defense. They have the number 2 overall pick, so he's going to be able to pick one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft to lead his team for years to come. I think they have like 13 picks. Dude, there's so many good options out there. That's why I'm just really nervous as a Raiders fan. I don't want to get passed up. And I think Mark Davis has screwed up so much crap in the last few years that I'm just worried that the Raiders are going to get passed by because we just don't have the oomph that I think the Raiders need to close those guys. So reality, I see Jim Harbaugh ending up a Charger. And what a storybook that would be. The first time the franchise wins a Super Bowl and Jim Harbaugh is that guy. Justin Herbert becomes a legend. He's the right guy for that job. He's also the perfect guy for the Raiders. I know everybody loves Antonio Pierce. And this is a great segue into our show because you guys know the topics. I have no problem touching base on those topics. I love pissing off my fellow Raider Nation, Raiders fans. It's just who I am. It's how I do things. But I just like to be honest, right? But most important, I look at it like this, man. Antonio Pierce did a great job. He's a very fiery individual. You could tell he bleeds silver and black, and I appreciate that. The problem is he was 5-4. He lost a game to the Vikings where the offense didn't score any points after a bye week, which shows the inconsistency and the inexperience. So much so that the very next week he had Tom Coughlin, Adam Gase, other notable names come in and help his staff prepare for the remainder of the season. Did it pay off a bit? Yes. Did we see improvement? Absolutely, man. Like, you beat all 3 of your division opponents in a 5-week span. Like, I'm not upset with that with Antonio Pierce. If the Raiders decided to stay with Antonio Pierce, I wouldn't be upset with that because I think the players play for him. I think the players are hard-nosed. I think they play with grit. I think they play the Raider way. Legitimately, the Raider way. But we can't act like Jim Harbaugh isn't always going to be a Raider. People forget. Jim Harbaugh was the quarterback's coach the 2 years that John Gruden finished up his career here and under Bill Callahan. Under those 2 years, Rich Gannon had his best seasons. as the quarterback for the Raiders. So much so he was in the MVP talk and won the MVP the following year. That's what earned him the San Diego State job. And as we know, after San Diego State, he went to Stanford. After Stanford, which was very successful, you got Andrew Luck. He was able to recruit Andrew Luck and get him there. Andrew Luck could have gone anywhere, guys. He was the top-rated recruit and one of the top-rated scouted quarterbacks we've ever seen in the NFL draft. That was Harbaugh. Harbaugh lured him to Stanford, of all places. Not Alabama, where he would have probably won multiple national titles, to Stanford. Then he goes to the San Francisco 49ers. He only goes 49-22-1. Not a big deal, right? Nearly 70% win percentage. 49-22-1. You go to 3 NFC title games with a team that went 6-10 before you arrived. Make a Super Bowl appearance. Lose to your brother, who is a hell of a coach, and that Ravens team which had an unreal defense. And if we're being honest, Joe Flacco was playing out of his mind in 2012. Like, Joe Flacco was playing in the playoffs the way he's playing now, if not better, for the Cleveland Browns. That year in 2012, he was unbelievable, and he earned his contract that year, because I think that was like the last year of his rookie contract. It was unbelievable. The Ravens were just a really good team that year. And they were a play away from being Super Bowl champs. The 49ers were. The following year, for some reason, things dissolved with the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh. The 49ers, stating that Jim Harbaugh was tough to deal with. He's a rah-rah guy. He's got an ego. I also understand, and from my readings, it sounds like Trent Baalke was not a very well-liked guy among the players. They wanted Harbaugh. The Niners decided to stay with Trent Baalke. Harbaugh decided to go to college. And it was before he was going to get traded, because it looked like he was going to get traded to the Browns. No joke. Harbaugh at one point was nearly traded to the Browns. But he decided to go to Ann Arbor. And it's been all she wrote there, right? Listen, I love Antonio Pierce. I have great respect for Antonio Pierce. I love his mentality. I love what he tries to do, man. He's badass. I'm all for it. The problem is, he's not Jim Harbaugh. He's not a national champion. He's not a winner everywhere he goes. He's been a head coach for 9 games. Yes, he finished 5-4. I get it. Yes, he did that with a team that wasn't constructed for him and his personality and what he does. 100% agree. The reality is what it is, though. Right? Jim Harbaugh right now is the better option. Antonio Pierce could be the better option down the road if it's revisited. But listen, if they decide to stay with Antonio Pierce, fine. That's cool. No big deal. I'll take it, man. I'll take it. But Jim Harbaugh's the better option. Adam says, I want Harbaugh in Chicago. Every team that's looking for a head coach right now, dude, wants Jim Harbaugh. Like, half of the teams that have a head coach want Jim Harbaugh. He's that good of a coach. Everyone craps on the man. But, dude, he's pretty well desired. Jen B says, I'm good with Stefanski. And you should be. Jen B, by the way, guys, is the host of the Show of the Land. Covers Cleveland sports or Ohio sports. Gotta love that. Showing out for her squad there. Love it. Love it. Thank you for tuning in, Jen. Stefanski's probably, to me, he's the coach of the year. With all the crap that you dealt with Deshaun Watson and those 4 different quarterbacks, and now on to Flacco, and you're still winning football games. Bradley Chubb being injured. Yeah, Stefanski's nuts, man. That guy's such a good coach. And I hate to say it, but the problem is he's in Cleveland. Right? Sorry. If he was the Dallas Cowboys head coach, the Dallas Cowboys would have won 3 Super Bowls already. I like Mark McCarthy. I just don't think he's as good as Kevin Stefanski's a stud. But yeah, you have every right to love that. Adam, everybody wants Harbaugh. I think the Saints want Harbaugh right now, right? With as inconsistent as Dennis Allen's been. So much so that, like, it sounds like the Saints management is talking about bringing John Gruden in, former Raiders head coach. John Gruden. Could Dennis Allen just be hiring his replacement if they don't do very well next year? I don't know, man. It's just crazy. And we all know Gruden's always loved the Saints and Drew Brees and everything else like that. Damn. Talking coaching about Jim Harbaugh, I have a fond memory of him throwing a hail that almost beat my beloved Steelers in 1995 AFC Championship game. That's awesome, dude. I was able to read that whole thing before you could delete it. Haha. Every team not named the Chiefs, Ravens, Browns want Jim Harbaugh. Absolutely agree. 100% agree. He's a winner, man. Everywhere he goes, he's a winner. Ralph, by the way, the Steelers, I've been hearing rumors about Mike Tomlin maybe wanting to step away for a bit, kind of like Sean Payton did. What if Mike Vrabel was the new head coach of the Steelers? Because we all know Mike Vrabel wasn't the problem in Tennessee. There's just a lot of possibilities for you guys in the chat, man. We're all a bunch of lovable losers that have teams that seem to want to fire their coaches every couple of years. No joke. No joke. So Harbaugh would be my choice. You guys have known that for a while. Wild card, I can't believe Mike Vrabel was fired from the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel was coach of the year just 2 years ago. This roster has either had injuries or it's gotten old way too quickly. There's not enough talent on this roster. They have not been taking advantage of the draft picks that they've been afforded. The other one was, what was that guy? The GM that was there before, John something. Guy traded away A.J. Brown in his prime, like before he got his contract extension and went and killed it at the Eagles. Yeah, he traded away that guy. If I'm Vrabel, I'm pissed. Like, I'm thinking I just didn't get the support I was expecting in Tennessee. He did a great job. He had like 3 or 4 straight winning seasons, including that coach of the year a couple years ago. What if Vrabel's in talks to be the Raiders' next head coach? There's options out there, man. That's what I love about it. But there's no option better than Jim Harbaugh. And I'm saying that, man. I'm saying that to be respectful. I looked at my buddies yesterday. Yeah, I looked at my buddies yesterday while watching the Michigan game, and I said, there's a possibility that one of these two quarterbacks and Jim Harbaugh could be on the Raiders next year. Because I truly believe there's a possibility the Raiders are in on either Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, if he isn't, pushed into the top 10. I think Michael Penix will be pushed in the top 10 after the season he had. So maybe Jaden Daniels falls. Either way, if the Raiders have a chance at Jaden Daniels, I'd be jumping for joy, dude. Because Jaden Daniels is a stud. Tomlin not leaving, never. And Vrabel is a good candidate for Patriots if Belichick leaves. I agree with that. I would not be surprised if... So this is what I've said for a while, and I know that Taryn's been privy to this because he listens to almost every show like the amazing teammate he is. I said not last week because I had a work meeting, but the week before that I said I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick is the next Chargers coach. If you're the Chargers, you have just fired your head coach, you have just fired your GM. Why wouldn't you go after the best head coach and GM in the last 20 years? Yes, I get it. Bill Belichick has had absolute flops the last couple years, or since Brady left. But let's not act like Brady didn't have an amazing defense, excellent offensive line, a great surrounding cast of pass catchers, whether it be tight ends or backs. Yes, they weren't top tier, wide receivers. I think that the best receiver he played with obviously was Randy Moss. But let's not act like that team wasn't constructed really well to fit the systems that they ran. Yes, Tom Brady's the dude, man. He's the GOAT. But those players don't end up on the roster without Bill picking them. For example, Tom Brady was picked by Bill Belichick. There is actual footage of Bill Belichick saying, we can get this guy in the 6th round. I think he'd be a steal. He'll be a good player for us. When he was talking about Tom Brady. That was Belichick's decision when Scott Pioli was the so-called GM. Belichick has had say on his roster since the day he stepped foot in New England because New England was that desperate to get a really good coach in. And kudos to Bob Kraft for going out and basically finding the highest football IQ and one of the most talented coaches out there. And Bill Parcells raved about Bill Belichick, by the way. I think it was just a match made in heaven, the way things worked out. Why wouldn't the Chargers go after that guy if he's available? And I truly believe that the Patriots and Bill Belichick will know by tomorrow. We'll know by tomorrow or Thursday whether Bill Belichick is on the Patriots. I truly believe that. If he's not, Mike Vrabel seems to be a lock to be the next head coach. If Vrabel, either way, I think either one of those guys needs to bring Josh McDaniels back as his OC. Josh McDaniels is a piece of shit human being. He's a horrible head coach, but we know he has an unbelievable track record of producing excellent or top 10 offenses, especially in a Patriots uniform. No matter who's the head coach for the Patriots, I don't care if Bill O'Brien's there. I'm rehiring Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. Straight up. It sounded like he was at the last game as a special guest. Don't be surprised, man. Don't be surprised if Josh McDaniels is back in a Patriots uniform, no matter who's head coach, because he just gets it, man. He understands. Vrabel will be a great change of pace for them, by the way. Younger, more energy. Players love him. Like, did you guys see how Taylor Lewan acted when he found out he was fired during an interview with ESPN? Unbelievable. Like, Belichick is the man. He's the greatest of all time. And, yeah, I just don't see it. Adam, I don't know what you're smoking in Chicago. Is it medicinal? Is it legal there? The Raiders aren't giving up Max Crosby. I know you love Max Crosby. Everybody loves Max Crosby. You're not getting Max Crosby. They wouldn't do that trade. That would never happen. And I if you said it's medicinal in the chat, I would believe you. 100%. You're high. That's hilarious. The first and second in 2024. If you look at the draft value chart, I don't think that's far off. I think it would be a first. It would be a first the next 2 years and a third probably. For a jump from 13 to 1. And Max Crosby would never be on the table. It's that old saying my mom used to say, you shit in one hand and wish in the other. Which one fills it faster? Oh, hey, got to take the energy uppers I can get my hands on keeping up with these 9-month-old. It's medicinal. I respect it. It's sleep deprivation. He has kiddos. Yeah. Everybody uses their kids as an excuse these days. But yeah, man, I think the Raiders are at a pivotal moment. They're looking for a GM. Champ Kelly did a really good job after Dave Ziegler was let go. He was doing a great job of finding guys on waivers to fill the rest of this team that fit the energy. Jack Jones is a perfect example. He wasn't on the team. He didn't start the year with the Raiders. He was cut by the Patriots, picked up on waivers by the Raiders. I like the things like that. And Jack Jones turned out to be an unbelievable piece because he had 2 straight weeks of pick sixes. So Champ Kelly deserves to be in the running for the GM position. This is how I think it'll shake down. And I think there's a few Raiders writers out there that would agree. Mo Moton's excellent. Vic Tafur, amazing. Bill Williamson, all of them. I think they're all kind of on the same piece. The GM is going to dictate which coach is going to be landed, right? If Champ Kelly is brought back as the GM, I believe AP will be the head coach. If Champ Kelly is brought back as the GM, I believe Antonio Pierce will be the head coach. If Ed Dodds from the Colts, a guy that I wanted to be hired 2 years ago because he's well-renowned across the league of being a very, very good talent evaluator. And I think the Colts are a perfect example of, like, they're legit a quarterback away from being a serious contender. They're that good. They're that built, right? Defensively, offensively. And Ed Dodds has a lot to do with that. Along with Chris Ballard, of course. But Ed Dodds has a lot to do with that. If Ed Dodds gets the GM position with the Raiders, him and Jim Harbaugh have worked together a lot in San Francisco. Even when Trent Baalke was there, it was said to have a close relationship, and this was stated on ESPN. I think it was NFL on ESPN this morning. If Ed Dodds is hired, there's a good chance Jim Harbaugh will be the head coach of the Raiders. If any other GM is hired, there's a possibility that it's going to be Antonio Pierce or whatever, but I think the GM is going to tell us what we're looking for. Because Jim Harbaugh, if he wants the Raiders job, he's going to want somebody close to him. It is what it is. The Raiders also interviewed former Chargers GM Tom Telesco. I think that is just kind of shaking the tree. And the Raiders love going through the Chargers hand-me-downs. I don't think you could say that, man. You guys have Khalil Mack. That's a Raiders hand-me-down. Like, I think it kind of goes both ways, just saying. Trying to be nice about that. You guys also hired Norv Turner after he was fired from the Raiders. I think it kind of goes back and forth, if we're being honest. Yeah, I mean, the Raiders have a lot of decisions to make this offseason. And I think the GM's going to decide which coach is going to be picked. It sounds like it's between Antonio Pierce or Jim Harbaugh. Taryn, I know you're kidding, buddy. I'm an overly competitive psycho. So I apologize. I've been listening to too much David Goggins. Forgive me. He's a great listen, by the way, for people who want to be motivated to work out. Hey now, that's a Raiders hand-me-down through the Bears. Thank you. Yeah, his best years were definitely with the Raiders. I'll say it like this. The needs, right? The Raiders need a franchise quarterback. You know, it's crazy that, like, 3 quarterbacks didn't even equate to the statistics that Derek Carr put in a Saints uniform. And Derek Carr had an off year because he missed 2 games. I just think that's incredible, right? Came on hot at the end of the season, but it is what it is. The Raiders need a franchise quarterback. They need to set a precedent. I truly believe that if there's a guy that the Raiders truly want, they should probably trade up and get him. Because you have a really good team right now. They do. They really have a good team. I wouldn't be shocked. So I don't believe Josh Jacobs will be back. He's going to be a free agent. I just don't see it happening. And after what Zeus did or Zamir White did this to the end of the year, I just don't see Josh Jacobs back. Devontae Adams, there's a good possibility he's traded to the Jets. Or Saints, but primarily the Jets. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if for like a 2nd and 3rd round pick or something like that, that man, or 2 seconds, kind of like the DeAndre Hopkins trade from the Texans, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Devontae Adams is traded. And I'm okay with that because Jacoby Myers is a hell of a receiver. Trey Tucker has really come out and played really well. You still have Hunter Renfrow, although I don't know if he'll be back. Michael Mayer will be healthy. You have those 2 running backs. There's guys to throw the ball to in Las Vegas. Would Harbaugh want to draft McCarthy? Yes, I think Harbaugh would try to do that. Larry B! Larry B is the man, the myth, the legend, as you guys know. Runs the radio station. He has multiple shows, 3 and Out College Edition, which those 2 shows he hosts with Taryn Rodriguez. Again, Taryn Rodriguez with all the hats that he wears. On top of that, Larry B has the Defining Moment that he also hosts. Guys, this is crazy. Adams to the Jets, where careers go to die. Dude, listen. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy next year, that's a team that's probably going to contend for a Super Bowl. If Devontae Adams is on there with Garrett Wilson and all them guys, dude, it'd be nuts. It's just a perfect storm kind of happening in a Jets uniform right now, dude. I think Breece Hall might be one of the best athletes we've ever seen play running back in the NFL. So you have him, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, an offensive line made up of first-round picks, although they've been garbage. They're going to improve. That defense is unbelievable. And yeah, again, you get Aaron Rodgers back, 4-time NFL MVP, Super Bowl champ, one of the most talented throwers of the football we've ever seen. The Jets have a perfect storm brewing, dude. If they get Devontae Adams for a couple 2nd-round picks, I think it's worth it. And then, yes, I do agree, Adam. It wouldn't surprise me if Jim Harbaugh would love McCarthy. But I think if the right GM is in place, they'll explain to Jim, Jaden Daniels is a better option. Jim, Jaden Daniels gives us more. I know you like McCarthy. He does a pretty good job. And to his credit, he had a bad game last night, but let's be honest. The Michigan receivers dropped like 4 or 5 blatant balls that just hit him in the chest or the hands. That's not on McCarthy. And they were drive extending stuff. Like the guy should have thrown for more than 250 yards yesterday. I don't know what happened with those receivers, but they were Both teams were dropping the ball. I think that's just the reality, man. Jim Harbaugh, if he's the head coach, we could see J.J. McCarthy as the quarterback. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's a gamer, he's a game manager. I look at J.J. McCarthy, like Paul McCartney or whatever his name is. I look at J.J. McCarthy and I think Alex Smith. Really, they're like the same player, and maybe that's Harbaugh's kind of guy. If it were me, I'd go Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is the top quarterback in this draft, to be honest with you. I'll put it to you like this to close the show, right? To close the show, I'm gonna close with a banger. You guys tell me what you think about this list. This is how I look at the quarterbacks right now that are in this NFL draft. Caleb Williams he's the best quarterback in the draft right now. Caleb Williams is the most talented right now, right? I would totally agree with that. My problem is he doesn't play on schedule. He doesn't play in the system. He has to do a lot with his legs. He has to make big plays. I think we saw that with we had that same assessment with Baker Mayfield. What happened to him? He got to the NFL, which is much faster, bigger, stronger, faster, and he just couldn't do those off-schedule things anymore. Caleb Williams is a much better prospect than Baker. It's just the same concept, okay? But right now, Caleb Williams is number one. Drake May, I think, has the highest ceiling, which I mean is the most potential. I think Drake May is huge. To me, he looks like a Ben Roethlisberger. Like, the dude can stick in the pocket. He can also take off and run if you need him to. He's got a massive arm. He's accurate. He just played for a North Carolina team that had no defense, and I mean, his starters left or they were on suspension or ineligible there, right? Williams just plays off schedule, Adam. That's it. That's the problem. If he could find a coach to say, no, dude, you can't create plays anymore. You need to play within the system and then create plays if you have to, he'll be fine if he's willing to do that. It's just and then the whole his agents think that he deserves a percentage of the franchise thing. I just think there's too much crap going on with that kid. I don't know if he's going to be the number one. I think he'll be the number one overall pick. I just don't know if it's worth the headache, right? And I think it would behoove the Bears to probably trade that pick. If you're not going to trade, Justin Fields is figuring it out, okay? I just think he needs a better coaching staff. But I think you could trade Justin Fields for some picks, and then you can get Williams. Maybe it's a good idea to start over, right? Another quarterback. So Michael Penix. I think he's the most pro-ready right now. Michael Penix is. I truly believe Michael Penix is the most pro-ready. He's got one of the strongest arms, highest velocity. And we saw it the other day or yesterday against Michigan. He got the shit beat out of him and still kept coming back for more. Totally respect that. Jaden Daniels, Heisman winner. He's a game changer, dude. Like, he can do everything, and he's on an 8-3 team, so people aren't talking about him as much. But Jaden Daniels is a stud. He did stuff with his arm. He did stuff with his leg. There's a reason why he won the Heisman this year. He's 6'4", about 215 pounds. He's probably got the most pro attributes of the squad. He's just not as pro ready as Michael Penix. And then you got J.J. McCarthy, who I think is a gamer. I think he's a game manager. I see him as an early second-round pick, maybe third-round pick. Like, everyone thought Dak Prescott was super impressive, and he ended up being a fourth-round pick, right? J.J. McCarthy hasn't done anything more than what Dak Prescott did other than manage a game and win a national championship. So that's why I think J.J. will probably be a late first, early second, which isn't bad. It's not bad. That's my quick, synopsis of what I think about these quarterbacks. There's 5 of them. Larry B saying Caleb Williams is a bust. I don't know about that, man. If he goes to the right spot, he'll be fine. But I do have reservations about him. I think Drake, I've said this for a long time, and you guys know this. Bo Callahan from Draft Day. That's awesome. I think Drake May, and I've said this, I thought he was the most talented guy. I thought he had the most upside. I've said this to some of my coaches on the Standing Bear staff that I work on. I think Drake May is the most talented. We just didn't get to see it much because he was at UNC while Mac Brown was trying to rebuild that place. If you would have put Drake May in an Alabama uniform, if you would have put Drake May in a Georgia uniform, they would have been even better than what they are now. That's how talented Drake May was. But we'll see, man. I'm actually hoping, crossing my fingers, that the Raiders go for Jaden Daniels. If they can't get Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix is sitting there, great. Otherwise, draft best available and hope to get J.J. McCarthy in the second round. Straight up. I'd be okay with that. And then let J.J. McCarthy and Aiden O'Connell really battle it out. Because Aiden didn't play that bad. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we talk all things Vegas sports. You guys can get at us if you missed the show. Don't worry, don't fret. We have the Spreaker app, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Pods, Apple Pods. We're everywhere, man. Like, follow, share. Helps our algorithms, helps the show out. And as always, folks, love, peace, and air grease.